everyone, Natissa here, and welcome to You Can Grow Too. I am still getting over being sick, so you're going to hear the fluctuation in my voice, but I do have my drink here and I have my notes because we have a lot to go over. This video is the first fall seedling tour. I'm located here in the subtropics of Florida, and this is when we start our fall season. We start planting for fall. I had already done a video of part 1 of everything I am growing for the fall season, and I do it in parts based on this video here because I have found in doing my early sowings, mid sowings, and late sowings, that has really helped me grow a lot of these plants that are in that video. I've also done a video of round number 1 of how I'm seed starting for this fall, and this is where a lot of these plants had come from. There's a lot that has happened on planting day all the way till now. I will be looking at my notes so I can give you all the information that I can, but let's get started. If you hadn't seen the how I have started my seeds this fall, you need to know first that in my seed starting mix that I made, I did half peat moss, which is a moisture absorbing material, and I did half sand, which is a draining material. And that sand I took from outside from another gardening project that we took apart, and there was really a lot of sand in it. And of course, you know, risking bugs and weed seeds, I feel pretty confident about how things are going right now. August 2nd, planting day, seed starting day. So the elephant in the room, my regret, using that hydrophobic, super dry, dusty seed starting mix. And I kept saying in that video that, oh, don't worry about it. I've done this before. You just put it in a tray and bottom water and it will wick it up. And it is true in that I have done it before. And to make a longer story short, I forgot that when I do a gardening project, when I first make my seed starting mix, I do wet it down. And anything left over, I just put here in my sunroom. And I usually do another planting the next day or the next day, whatever. And that seed starting mix is still a little wet or has a little moisture in it. So when I do my bottom watering, it does wick up the water pretty good. So I was correct, but I just forgot that very important detail. So in order to fix my mistake, what I had done was I continued bottom watering, and I had kept spraying the top of my seed starting containers with water. And that I thought would, you know, it wouldn't soak in right away because remember it's hydrophobic, but I was hoping it would create a channel down in, just one channel, and it would meet the water on the bottom and eventually wick through. And eventually it did, because actually a lot of these containers, some of them are now too wet. So I did fix my problem in a way. Now I just have to adjust the other problems. So I did make it work. That's why I'm okay with making mistakes, because if we can document it and show each other, because I admit I did feel a little embarrassed, but you know, in being able to look back and problem solve and come up with a solution and figure it out, I feel pretty good, and I've learned along the way too. So next time I'm just definitely gonna make sure there's some moisture in that seed starting mix. And then if maybe you seed started and it was super dry, you know that you can fix it too. With the bottom watering, something weird did happen that to this day I don't quite sure know why or what happened, but the next day in that water, I'd come in and check on it, and it smelled really funny. It actually, the best way I could describe it is it smelled like a weird dirty diaper. And if anything smells like a weird dirty diaper, I don't think it can be good. So I don't know why. I did use rainwater. I did do that. So maybe was it the rainwater? Was it the sand that I used from outside? Maybe there was something in it, I don't know. And so I did change out that water because I felt like, yeah, that was too much. And it wasn't like it was sitting there for a long time. It was just sitting there overnight, and the next day it was smelling like that. So I don't know what that was. But I did change the water, and in my notes I didn't put it down, but I'm pretty sure I then used tap water just in case it was the rainwater. And that whole water incident was just a couple days after seed starting. And the seed starting that we had done was August 2nd, and this was now August 4th, and I changed that bottom water a couple times. Also, something that seemed very alarming on August 4th, just a couple days after, was our bitter melon seeds started getting white mold on them. So it felt very discouraging because at this time, like I said, the water wasn't wicking up, getting moldy seeds. But it was also, I was still continually at this time spraying the tops of these seed starting containers. The next day, August 5th, I finally got these under our grow lights inside. And I didn't want to keep them in the sunroom because we don't really have circulation in here at all. So under the grow lights, and for the first time, I'm pretty sure the first time, I actually had a little fan going in there, which was nice because you need circulation on your plants. It gets them stronger, and it just kind of helps prevent too much mold from growing on top. And with my seed starts under the grow lights, I actually didn't keep the water under there because I was still dealing with smelly water. But I did continue just to keep spraying the top, trying to work that moisture in. Also on this day, despite all this what was feeling like a failure, we did have germination from our bitter melon seeds. Despite that white mold, that was very, very encouraging. So I knew we had to get planting soon. The next day, August 6th, we also were getting germination on our seed started plants. Some of the first germinated seeds, there were some onions, some tomatoes, okra. The sickles started showing up, and even the pumpkin seeds, even though they weren't showing on top, you could see a lot of the roots that were starting to form on the bottom coming out. And it might have been at this time that I was putting water in here, fresh water, for bottom watering, but I didn't put that on my notes, but there was eventually, of course, I started doing that, and everything was starting to work as planned. Water was wicking up into that seed starting mix. So the day before, we had the germination with the bitter melon, and the next day, here we are still on August 6th, and I checked those bitter melons, and they grew so much since that first germination the day before. And in fact, so much so that the taproot was actually going into the cloth that I used. And that did make a problem because as I was getting those seeds off, I did break the taproot of one of the seeds. And yeah, that is a huge no-no. I mean, especially such a young, I don't even want to say plant because there was no leaves or anything on it. And I already disrupted the root system, the taproot, which is a big deal. So I thought, oh man, is this going to be a waste? But I still planted both the broken seed and what I call the intact seed because I successfully took that one out. And I put it in some seed starting mix that I did put water in it and mixed it up around in it, by the way. This time I wasn't going to make that same mistake of using the hydrophobic seed starting mix. And that did work wonderfully. And it didn't take much time, by the way. I didn't have to sit there and stir things up and all that. I just poured water in it, stirred it up. I mean, it still needed to absorb, but with that water throughout and sticking the seeds in and bottom watered and poured some on top, it worked wonderfully. I did, by the way, label on my bitter melon seedlings. I labeled the broken one and the intact taproot, so that way we could compare the growth. So August 8th, I decided to go outside and plant some more watermelon outside. I did have a couple seeds started inside, but it is my experimental plant. I want to see if I can grow it in fall, so I did that. Along with already having to up-pot the sickle plant. I didn't want too much of that root system to come out of these 6 cells because generally with squash, pumpkins, watermelon, those kind of things, you don't want to disrupt the root system, and with this 6-cell, it air prunes the roots. That means, the roots will come out and they will die off, but keep the plant contained from outgrowing itself. And in my mind, when you think about it, if you are killing off parts of the root system for air pruning, I assume that you are disrupting the root system. So I didn't want to do that to the plant. So when I was seeing a lot of the root systems coming out of for the sickle and the plant was already growing pretty good, I did up pot them. And that just means a bigger pot, so that way the root system can continue growing in a more healthy fashion. And at this time, I also took some of my homemade compost, which is a whole topic in itself. It was definitely not really broken down at all. It was kind of mucky, but I did take a scoop of that, put it where I was gonna plant it. I mean, I dug a hole and I dug it at the bottom and I mixed it with my native ground and hoping to help it. And, buried it, and, I left it there a few days in hopes for it to break down just a bit, because you don't want not broken down compost with a lot of plants because it could burn the roots. And I've heard that pumpkin plants can sometimes handle it a little better. I mean, I don't know, we'll see for ourselves. But I thought that would help me have a better chance. And I have been preparing my spots the last few weeks with food scraps and paper waste, just to kind of build up that area better for them. I want to give them the best chance. On August 9th, I did plant more Everglades tomatoes. Actually, I didn't plant any. If you saw my seed starting video, I did pluck one out of the ground that was self-seeded, and I think it would, well, I do have it here. We'll see what happens, but ultimately I didn't put that in anything right away because I was in the middle of filming and that was my main focus. So I did plant a couple of Everglades seeds in some 6-cells just to make sure I have some plants, even though chances are I'm going to have many pop up in the garden. And a couple days later, on August 11th, I did plant more onion seeds because as I was watching the onions come up, I was feeling very nervous by the low amount I appeared to be getting. And I felt myself, there's still a chance that things could still pop up, but I just was thinking to myself, I'd be very disappointed if I didn't really get many onions. So I did go ahead and plant a couple more 6-cells of them. And this was also the day that I planted out my sickle and my pumpkin plants out in the garden. And I did plant both out in each section because, when I plant out something, usually a bug will start attacking one and all that. So I was hoping nature could sort that out for me, but we're going to check that out on this tour. A few more days later, August 13th, I was also getting a little nervous about my cuckoozy gourds not germinating, and I could have swore they germinated really fast when I tried this in spring. And then I thought about it, actually just the other day, maybe it was because I think I had them going outside more during the seed starting process, and it is hotter out there, and I think those kind of seeds need more heat. And I've just been keeping them inside under the grow lights. So see all these factors, when you do things differently, you learn so much. But I was very concerned and I thought, well, I really want to try this plant. So I did put about 3 seeds in the garden that we're going to go check on the tour to see if they have sprouted. It was probably about that day, August 13th, I'm pretty sure, that's when I started getting sick. So I actually had plans to prepare the ground for my bitter melon because the bitter melon was starting to really grow very well. I think I forgot to mention that. Yes, the broken taproot that I thought was a goner, that actually germinated out of the soil first. Or I should say came up out of the soil first. And the intact one came up like a day later, but I was just shocked and they were growing so fast. And I really wanted to get that mucky, unfinished compost dug in a hole a few days earlier before I planted those bitter melon plants. But like I said, I got sick. I didn't feel good about going out. In fact, I'm still not feeling the best right now. And yesterday, August 16th, I thought to myself, well, I got to get these plants out there. So I just found a place that was decently suitable, stuck some of that compost in, mixed it in the just native ground in the garden, and just buried it a bit, planted the bitter melon on top, and we'll see. So I don't forget, I did plant it where on the left is the broken taproot plant and on the right is the intact. So that way we can see the growth, and eventually we'll have to select which plant goes on. But I did get those bitter melon plants out there. I felt like I couldn't wait much longer. Then within these past few days, I mean, to start from absolutely hydrophobic, dry, dusty seed starting mix, and to all of a sudden, and actually not too long of time, end up with actually, in some cases, too wet seed starting mix. I was starting to notice some plants, like the onions, that do like it drier. I did pull them out and put them just in an empty pie tin, you know, no water in it, so that way they could dry out a little bit. Same with my wild Spanish daisy, whatever it is, because that I'm pretty darn sure grows in dry conditions. And, you know, and that's something in my reflective time of this whole crazy seed starting mix time. I realized something, and I get frustrated with myself in the watering conditions because I either get things too dry or too wet, and I can never seem to have things consistent. And I realized something is that in gardening, you need to have the basics, the basic knowledge of what plants need, how to seed start, and all that. And the process of seed starting is monitoring. And in monitoring, you're seeing what you need to do. You're looking at what's happening. You know, different factors are changing. Yes, you're going to get too much of this. You're not going to get enough of that or whatever else. And in that monitoring, you are adjusting. So there's no way I believe anyone that can really tell you, do this, set it, leave it there, you're done until you plant them out. I don't think there's any formula for that, because the whole seed starting mix process, seed starting, gardening is all about monitoring. And you monitor because so many things do happen, and you do need to take care of things as it goes. So, I don't know if it's because I'm sick. I feel like I'm all over the place, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's constant adjusting, it's constant monitoring. But like I said, the general information will get you there, because that is what you're striving for along the way. With all that said, it is August 17th, and it is time to take a look at these seedlings. Let's take a look at what's in front of me right now. The cuckoozy, you know, has not germinated yet. I've been looking underneath for the roots. I haven't seen any poking up yet. So, like I said, I planted some outside just in case. Summer Savory, I think that could be a seedling. It was looking better yesterday. Half of that leaf, the cotyledon that you need for when a plant starts, looks like it's shriveled up. Maybe because it's too wet. Again, my seed starting mix, my hydrophobic seed starting mix got too wet. So we'll see. I did plant so many seeds. You're not going to see them in here, but if you see the seed starting mix video, I did do that. So I'm actually kind of surprised, but I mean, there's still a chance. We're still kind of early with our seed starting. This Italian onion mix, this was planted later because some of my onions didn't show up, and I wanted to make sure I had a lot of onions. So this still has time. And same as back here, more bulbing onions. This still has time. And these, this is sitting in a dry tray right now. Well, the onions I did take out because they were too wet. But this is just for display. Everything that I'm kind of showing you, it's just to display them. So some of these are on very dry trays. But anyways, planted later, we're still waiting. And in this one, we have our mouse melon, our cucamelon. They are coming up, and they're looking pretty good so far. My baby little cucamelons. And next to them, nothing again. The green garlic that I keep saying I can't seem to start seeds well with it. Not one has shown up. And just to point out, I do see some white mold on some of these plants, and last year I had this happen, and I think partially it's due to the slow release fertilizer I use, because like chicken poo and that sort of thing. And it's never really affected the plants, and it's not just me saying that and experiencing that. However, to me, that's valid enough, because if I didn't experience it, I'm not going to worry about it. But I've also heard other gardeners say this has happened and they haven't experienced any problems with their plants either, so I'm just not going to worry at the moment about that. Oh, side note, these tags have been holding up. I told you I couldn't use the plastic tags that I've been using because the birds have been stealing them. However, I've been keeping these plants inside right now. But being that they've been sitting in water for a long time, these are actually looking still pretty darn good. And I won't be needing these forever, of course, because they will be planted outside. All right, moving along. Here in the back, we have our yarrow. I'm always so amazed at yarrow. It's such a small seed, and I always question if it's going to work. And I didn't think I planted that many seed, but apparently I did, and we'll have to thin those out. But it grows so well. And same with what's growing well is the chamomile, another super small seed. You definitely surface sow these, and look at that. It worked. What's not working, I'm pretty sure that is a chamomile seed, but this is where my ashwagandha was planted. And if I remember in spring when I did this, I think they even came up later. So I am going to try not to worry about this. And something that has just come up here is the coneflower, the purple coneflower. I can get them to germinate fine. It's just getting them outside and having I just don't want a bug to bite them up and eat them, because that's my problem generally. What did not pop up here again, which didn't pop up in spring either, was my spilanthes, my toothache plant. Not a sign. So very, very frustrating, you know, because I really want that plant. And another thing, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, but is that mint? I don't know. Again, I use the sand from out in my backyard, and that means I am risking having weed seeds come up in here. And I mean, that's not ideal. If you're new to growing, you know, you may not want to do that because you're just learning what certain seedlings look like. And I still question certain seedlings of what they look like coming up, but there's a lot I do know, so I feel confident in doing what I'm doing. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled. Hopefully it is mint. All right, let's move to what else is in front of me. More onions. These are the onions, or I think it's this onion. This is the onion I did in the seed starting mix video, my bulbing onions. And I did take them out of the bottom watering because, I don't know, hopefully you can tell, but if you look at the tips of the plant, you can see they're kind of like withering and dying. And I'm wondering if it's because the soil was too wet. So I did take them out of the water and hope to dry them out. And people always say onions are nearly indestructible. Well, here is the test. And here are the green onions looking well as well. And as these onions get larger, these plants get larger, we will be dividing them up. But right now, yeah, we're just going to keep them growing together. And in the back, a very disappointing onion. The Italian onions, those pretty ones that I thought for sure were going to work. And gosh, barely anything came up. So I don't know what's the deal with that. There's still a chance of things germinating, because I do see that little green one coming up, assuming it is an onion seedling. So that one's fresh. It just came up. So who knows, who knows. And next door to it, my quote-unquote Spanish daisy, who knows, that wild flower that I found walking my dog. That was so beautiful. And again, no seed packet, just with the general information of knowing how to plant seeds. And generally it seems wild seeds like surface sowing, that is what I had done. And look, it is working. So hopefully we'll get that up in fall and growing well. Let's move to the side. This seedling was the Everglades tomato that you saw me pop out of the container when I was growing the cucumbers in that How I'm Seed Starting This Fall video. And my gosh, I wish you could have seen what this looked like days ago. I mean, it looked way, way, way worse than this. I actually just gave up on it, left it in the sunroom. That's sometimes the story of the seedling life of my seedlings when I just, you know, just think they're done for. And then one day it just kind of started looking quote unquote good. Okay, I'll say better. So I brought it inside and I'm actually starting to take care of it. So we will see. But I still planted the Everglades tomato that I told you about because I was unsure. And they have, gosh, all came up. I didn't think I planted that many seeds, honestly. And to be honest, again, I don't even know if I need this because it's going to be popping up all over the garden. But just to be sure. And more planted green onions. Oh, and they are coming up. These are the late planted ones. I don't, gosh, off the top of my head, I don't know the date. I'm not looking at my notes. But look at that. They are starting to come up. Going behind our tomatillo, very concerning. I turned to the side so you can see. I'm trying not to squish the plants in the process. But it's kind of curling on the side. It's just, I feel like it's struggling with that a lot of water going on in there. I think those are more tomatillo seeds coming up. We'll see. I did just want one plant, but gosh, last spring when I did this, I had so much success with the tomatillo. And gosh, we'll see this time. But yeah, I just want one plant. We're going to experiment and see if that's all you need to get some fruit. And moving over, the one I was most excited about, of tomatoes, I should say, my white tomato. And only 3, and now a 4th one is showing up. That's new to me right now. I knew of just 3. So we'll see. I just want at least one strong plant to make it through, but I always grow a little bit more because if something happens, a bug comes in and does something, well, then I'll be done for. So looking really good. This is only 2 weeks of growth, by the way. A lot of these plants you are seeing. Oh, the pepino. Look at it. It is coming up. Yes. Actually, I don't know 100% sure. Looking at this one and looking at that, they look very different. I don't think that is a pepino, but I think that one is. And that one right there. But again, just going to see if I can grow it in fall. I just want one plant to try. Hyssop. Yeah, I believe those are the hyssop plants. Maybe not that one right there, but the other 2 are. And one of my husband's favorite tomato, the honeycomb hybrid. Looking good as usual. Moving toward the back again. We have our okra. Right along this side here. These 2, it might be hard to see, but they're a little more leggy, more tall. I'm pretty sure it has to do with the lighting, because if they were right on the edge and they're trying to reach for the light, that is what happens. But also, try to see if you can tell. Oh, you can tell. You see that seed hole that's connecting the 2 first leaves that come up, those cotyledons? Sometimes that seed hull will pinch those leaves together, and I don't think that makes the growth the best. And I tried to separate some of them because that happened to this one too, and I kind of ripped one of the, oh, there it is, I ripped the leaf, but it seems to be doing okay. And there's the first true leaf right there. That's the true leaf of the okra, and these ones are those cotyledons, or cotyledons, that I talked about earlier that your plants have, because that gives nutrition to the plant as it starts. But yeah, so these 2 okras are struggling a wee bit. This is the okra seedling I'll focus on presently. Interesting. Look at that. Look at the stem of this one. This one's red and this one is not. And I'm wondering if I had a cross of my seeds, because I picked this from my Clemson spineless okra, which is a green okra. And when you plant like a red okra, you'll see a lot of that sort of red in the stem as well. Not just red okra, but just in the plant itself. So I'm wondering if I had an okra cross, because I was planting both colors at one time. So I guess we'll see. And there's a weed. Or maybe not. I mean, maybe it could be something good, like a ground cherry or something. I don't know. But I didn't intentionally plant that. but I did intentionally plant this, and that is my watermelon, the Crimson Sweet. I did plant 3 seeds, but only 1 has shown up presently. And along the back, more tomatoes. What tomato is it? My husband's other favorite, the green zebra, looking really good. Lots of seedlings planted in those cells. And on this side, I did my purple cherry, and there's just 1 popped up in here. And this was that seed packet I had mentioned where it has the coated seeds. And, you know, I do plant some of those coated seeds, and it does work. So I'm trying to be hopeful about this one. But this is older seed. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Oh, going down, going down, going down. And we have our chocolate Cherokee. Everything is looking really good in there. Very healthy. Nebraska Wedding, that orange tomato, looking great. And Black Crim, and I discovered something really weird today. So here are my Black Crims. Not many popped up. I was also using older seed, maybe that's part of it, but that's not my point. Look at the leaves, how they are here. See that? See that? Now look at these leaves. See that? See that? This looks like a brandywine tomato. And I don't know how it got there. But in the past, I have what I tell myself like some brandywine garden miracles when I first started gardening. So maybe this is just another one just to tell me that everything's gonna be okay. I don't know. I like all those weird little things that happen in the garden sometimes. Toward the back, let me move this little guy. Whoop. We have some Roma tomatoes looking good. I really gotta get them going because these are the determinants. They seem to grow faster and produce fruit sooner. So that's gotta be happening. Some San Marzano, another famous paste one. There's some good, couple strong, healthy looking plants in there. And last but not least, there's a few. Good old Mr. Stripey. And the last of these indoor bunches of plants. More tomatoes. Those apricot zebra tomatoes that I had mentioned that I struggled with last year. And again, these seedlings are, I'd have to double check everything, but I feel like the worst seedlings, more scrawny and just not strong. I mean, not strong looking. I mean, that doesn't mean they won't work, but the other ones just seem hardier to me. And that was my problem last year, and nothing worked. So we're going to find out. And our new tomato to me is, oh, interesting. This is the first time I'm noticing. I can't believe I didn't notice this, although it is hard to see it in my seed starting room when things are all together. This is the giant pink Belgium tomato. And look at the seeds. It is that potato leaf, like a brandy wine. Oh, I'll have to look that up. Actually, I really do need to look that up because it seems, unless I'm wrong, do tell me if I'm wrong because I want to be wrong. But I've heard potato leaf tomatoes can be harder to grow as far as less disease resistant. And I believe it because with the brandywine tomato, I've grown that a few times and nothing but problems. I mean, I'll get a tomato, but ultimately, yeah, it's very hard. So I'm wondering, am I going to encounter it with this giant pink Belgium? I don't know. And last, actually two last but not least, in the back, more of my husband's, one of his favorites, the green zebra, and in front, lone purple cherry tomato that I'm trying to get going from those coated seeds. So the big thing here that we're going to be doing in the near future, as you might know, and if you don't know, you're going to, is that these tomato seedlings need to be divided, and you can do that easily with them. Either snip them out and leave one behind and let that be your plant, or divide them. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet in regards to that. But I do need to think of it soon because they are very overcrowded in here, and the more they stay in there without getting, you know, taken care of. I just don't want to risk anything to them, so we will have to make a decision soon about that. But that's really the next step, or one of the big next steps. Oh, and I got to show you the bitter melon. We did do 2 of the seeds, but there is 1 more in here that I've just been leaving in here because it appears to be doing nothing, it still has time to do something. I don't see any sign of germinating yet. It has been here about 2 weeks, but I believe, if I remember correctly, on bitter melon seeds, it can take 3 weeks for germination, so wouldn't that be crazy? So I am going to put it back in here where it is moist and it is warm and the humidity is insane. Let's put that on there. And I've been checking every day. So we finished the seedling tour in the house. Now we need to check out those plants that, yeah, believe it or not, we already had to plant out in the garden. So let's go see. It is so very hot out here, but we are going to check out our sickle. Here it is, sickle 1, sickle 2. They're actually looking really, really good. I mean, you might think that they're wilting, and they are kind of wilty right now, but it is the heat of the day. But when it gets evening time, these will plump back up. It's just the water going down to the root system, and they probably do need a watering again. I watered them yesterday, but this is really looking good right now. Or the cloud coverage might help. The cloud just came over. Oh, and let's check down here amongst all this craziness and weediness. Yesterday, I still planted the bitter melon. Move this out of the way. And they're both looking really good. This is the one with the broken taproot, and this is the one that had it intact. And they're actually not looking too bad. Again, it's hot out here. It's the middle of the day. Maybe I should have come out later. Maybe I'll get some footage of it, but these leaves will return to their proper shape. But they're still there. They made it through the night. Sometimes that's a big deal in itself. Like I said, weedy. We're going to be doing our big summer cleanup. Oh gosh, very soon. But I did put in some watermelon seeds down in here. There's one of the seedlings. It does look bug eaten up a bit, and I don't see anything else. And I mean, we'll see. And there's still a chance that some seeds will come up, because I think I put like about 10 seed in there. So I just try to keep it watered best I can. That's all you can do. So down there by the house where I have the sickle, because that is our tropical zucchini, and I'd like that closer to the house. And down by the watermelon seeds I planted. And over here, we have our mystery pumpkin, our tropical pumpkin. And nature selected which seedling is going to continue on, because right over here was the other one that I planted. And the next day, pretty much, day or so, it was eaten down. But this one is wonderful. And it does get a bit more shade. As you can see, the leaves are out and healthy because it is not just being blasted by the sun. So, like I said with the sickle, yeah, it looks very limp, but it will look like this toward the evening time. But, oh, good. I do see the white pattern there. That is not powdery mildew. It seems like a lot of these sort of tropical zucchinis or pumpkin squashes, they have this type of pattern, it seems. So I was very nervous because the first true leaf that came up did not have that. And I thought, oh no, because I explained how I can't grow just any squash, but looking very promising. Look at that. I am so excited. This is going to get crazy. And here, buried amongst this Indian bird gherkin, that is actually a raised bed in there. I did plant the cuckoozy seeds. Let me see. I don't see any seedlings presently, any germination, but we'll keep an eye on it. But along this bed as well, I did plant the corn. Not in there. And this is the only corn that has really survived and germinated. Again, I mean, I'm not telling you to plant corn in a mess like this. The purpose of this corn is just to see if I can grow corn, going into the fall season. Honestly, I didn't really have the best plan of having this done, but I'm still interested in seeing what's happening. And, well, that's what's happening. But a few other corn seedlings did come up. They just got eaten up, and this is the only surviving one. Oh, and look at this. Cucumber seedlings looking really good so far. I'm really going to have to be watching these because those little pickle worms, they will take this out so fast. So I am, oh my gosh, I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited. But I'm going to try to control it just a little bit. And below the hummingbird tree, I did plant a few more because this tree, I believe, is a nitrogen fixer. So I thought, oh, let's try it out. And we did. They were both planted the same day, but you can see that this one is definitely set back, but this is in some more shade, whereas the other one that I just showed you is in more sun, but still gets some shade because it is still so crazy hot out. Like, this is not really a good time to be planting such a crop where I live, but we're just going to try to carry these along, have them limp along, and hope that they just hit a spot where things are a little better for them, and then they can do what they'll do. But again, this is a test. We'll see. Again, let's go close this up inside. And what a crazy start to these fall seedlings. Hydrophobic soil, moldy seeds, broken taproots, mysterious smelly water. But it worked! So far. If you're interested in more videos before my next upload, check out the description below. I do have a lot of even my past seedling tours of this spring and how I started those seeds, because I do something different all the time and encounter many different things, and there's so much to learn there too. And if you hadn't already, check out this video of round number 1 of how I am seed starting for this fall season. And that way you can get caught up on everything you see here and everything else you're going to see later. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. To be continued.